All right, here we are with 4 levels of risotto, a Epicurious video. I love the Epicurious channel, and during the pandemic many years ago, I did nothing but binge it. It was amazing. Now, 3 years later, it's still going strong. They have just over 5 million subscribers, and this video was posted about 2 months ago. Risotto, something we serve at the restaurant once in a while, and I even have featured it a few times in some of my cooking videos. With that said, let's start the video and see what they're doing.
I'm John, and I'm a level 1 chef.
I'm Diane, and I'm a level 2 chef.
I'm Lish, and I've been a professional chef for over 25 years.
I've seen the first guy before. I've never seen the other two, so let's see if this is going to be any good.
Everybody likes risotto. It's a crowd pleaser no matter where you go.
I'm using a different kind of rice, which I feel like is going to be really controversial.
I'm making bubbles and caviar risotto. You're going to have to stick around so that you can find out what all that means.
First, I'm going to start by prepping all my ingredients. I have no tricks about how to not get corn everywhere, but my dog loves it. I chose the corn and the tomatoes just because when I think about risotto, I feel like it's always like mushrooms or butternut squash and kind of like colder weather. So I wanted to try something that would be a little lighter and brighter.
I like to keep it nice and simple, but also...
So when she was saying I like to get all of my prep done first, she's doing her mise en place, which is something super important in restaurants. You cannot start dinner service without having everything ready to go. It would just take way too long to cook food if you were dicing your onions to order.
A little bit helpful, so I'm going to add mushrooms and asparagus. A nice inch of the ends there.
Funny, actually, tonight for dinner we had risotto, and that's why when I went through YouTube looking for a video to react to, I was like, hey, risotto, I just made that for dinner today. And we had it pretty boring, I guess you would say. We had it with asparagus and grilled chicken. So it's funny, he's doing asparagus too.
Wait, were these pre-trimmed?
The flavor profile I'm looking for in my risotto is actually clean and refreshing. We're going to add some scallops, bit of that ocean flavor.
Scallops would be great in risotto.
And then the fresh licorice flavor, I guess, of fennel and chives, because that just brightens everything and makes everything happy.
Now for the mushrooms.
Hey, I hate to interrupt the video, but if you're getting any value out of this, could you please hit that subscribe button and leave a comment down below? So I'm surprised. What she's doing right now doesn't seem controversial at all. I've seen other Epicurious videos like the chili where the professional cook just did something stupid. Like basically he made a bouillabaisse. You know, now that I think about it, I think I have seen her before. I think I've seen her in another video. Maybe it was like how to break down a chicken or something. So she must not do anything so crazy where... Like, she must be more like a Frank then that just makes something really good at that next level. I hope that's the case.
Roughly the same size as the asparagus. People are gonna, again, come for me with the chopping, but I don't care. It's my knife. They always say, John's gonna get hurt. And I'm like, yeah, I definitely have been.
Nice, thin little ribbons of basil. Woo!
I'm going to address my fennel here for a little savory sweetness. I'm going to use the bulb for my risotto, but I like to use the fronds as well for a little gourmet garnish, if you will. So these perfect little light green ones, that's what you're looking for. It's going to impart that bright licorice freshness to the garnish of the dish.
I'm going to use Parmesan to thicken it up, and it's going to add like a nice salt to it as well. And the next thing is my shrimp. I bought these really nice big jumbo shrimp with the shells on so that I can use them to enhance my stock along with the corn cobs.
So I chose scallops today. These are...
Yeah, so enhancing her stock with the shells. Definitely if you're going to make like a seafood dish, there's nothing wrong with using seafood stock for your risotto. If you're going to make a beef dish, beef stock might be a little strong for me. I would probably go 50-50 beef chicken or veal stock. A chicken dish, chicken stock, you know, you can match the stock in your risotto to the protein that you're eating. Unless it's pork. Then you just stick with veal or chicken.
The beautiful, large, dry-packed scallops. They're going to add a little fresh ocean sweetness to the dish, and it's going to pair perfectly with the risotto.
So now I'm gonna saute my vegetables. I like to pre-cook them, put them on the side, and then add them into the risotto at the end. Just got some simple olive oil.
I'm gonna use avocado oil because it has a higher smoke point and actually doesn't burn as quickly as olive oil does.
I'm just gonna saute this for about 3 to 4 minutes. And really what I'm looking for is everything getting a little browner, a little softer.
I want to make sure that my scallops are super dry. You want dry food to hit a hot pan. Season generously with salt.
And pepper. I think really for a lot of food, all you need is some salt, pepper, and oil. And it's delicious. Keep things simple. Just let the flavor of the food come out.
A little bit of olive oil.
So I know that she said she was using the avocado for the high heat, the smoke point. But, okay, so I would have used clarified butter because you're going to also get that high heat. And butter makes everything better, but, you know, seriously, butter goes really well with seafood like shrimp. Toasting your risotto, the arborio rice, in butter gives it a more nuttier flavor. I'm not the biggest fan of olive oil myself personally. I always pick up on, if it gets old and oxidizes, it tastes like cardboard, and to me, I always pick that up even when it's fresh. I'm just not the biggest fan of olive oil.
Oil into my pan.
Ooh, bubbles. They're starting to get a nice little browning to them. Oh yeah, see, it's starting to curl up.
Scallops cook very quickly. They don't need much time at all. I just want to get brown on the first side. You can smell the sweetness coming out. It smells like the ocean.
Yeah, so scallops take about 90 seconds a side. So, and shrimp too cooks really fast because it's a very lean protein. There's no fat in it. So I don't understand. So part of me understands that they're cooking the protein in the pan, and then there's going to be a deglazing action when they do the risotto in the same pan, which is going to add more of that flavor into the risotto, which is great for the risotto, but the shrimp for sure is going to cool off, and then when you go to reheat it, it's going to be like chewing through a condom. Then you've got the scallops, same thing. They're going to get cold, and then when you go to reheat them, you're going to overcook them. Unless she's only going to cook them on one side, which she's not, because you can see on the screen one scallop's sear side up. So they're going to get cold, and then they're going to get overcooked.
Hello, lover.
It's got that nice char.
The asparagus is that bright green color now, so you can tell it's cooked. The mushrooms are getting smaller.
And it's got
So the level 1 cook's the only one that makes any sense to do any pre-cooking because it's vegetables. He's going to get the moisture out of the mushrooms because they're like 90% moisture. And the asparagus, hit or miss, it's fine.
full peachy color, so
It is ready to go. Oh.
Now I'm just gonna add a little nubbin of butter here. All right, I'm gonna remove these from the heat, give them a little squeeze. Oh, those are perfect. I can tell they're done because they've definitely changed in texture, but they're still soft in the center. That's what I'm looking for. And
Yeah, they're ready to eat now. They won't be ready to eat in 15 minutes when your risotto's done.
ooh, you see that little jiggle? It's almost like Jell-O. Stock is such an important part of risotto because it's really what flavors the whole dish. The rice absorbs it, so the rice ends up.
Oh, please tell me that they're not presenting this in the order it was actually filmed. Like, I really hope she started the stock like 3 hours ago, because if she started the stock after searing those scallops, they're fucking useless. They're gonna be ice cold by the time it's time to eat, and when you reheat them, they're gonna turn into a rubbery mess.
Tasting like what it absorbs, right? So you really need to build a solid base to start with.
My risotto broth is super complicated. I'm gonna take this store-bought broth and pour it in the pot.
And there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, I like to make stock. Okay, I shouldn't say I like to make stock. It's kind of boring. It doesn't give me any pleasure or joy. But what I do is I reduce my stock down till I get to the glacé stage, and I freeze it in ice cubes. So I make homemade condensed stock. And then when I want to do something like a risotto, I grab an ice cube of stock, I drop it in a pot with water, and I reconstitute it. So I make my own homemade version of what he's using right now. And you know what? There's nothing wrong with picking it up at the store if you don't have time to boil down chicken bones for hours.
Why make it from scratch?
I'm using store-bought vegetable broth. I'm doing this like no stir technique. So I'm rinsing the rice and the vegetable stock so that some of that starchiness releases into the broth, and it should thicken up with way less stirring. I'm just gonna give it a quick strain.
We have a little bit of toasted fennel seed here, about 2 teaspoons. We're just gonna break them up a little bit in the mortar and pestle to bring out some of those aromatics, a little bit of the oil, 1 bay leaf, 2 garlic cloves, smashed and peeled, just some thyme.
Yeah, I really think they must have done this first and that the editor just chose to show the protein sear first just to get people hooked on it. Because there's no way that they would have seared the scallops and cooked the shrimp before they started the stocks.
Bruise it up a little bit, get the aromatics going. Ooh, that smells good. Lemon zest. I want this to be a very clean stock. Light, flavorful, citrusy, a little sweetness. I have some shallots, halved, very simple. You don't even have to peel them if you don't want. And a couple of Parmesan cheese rinds. Parmesan.
So I disagree with not peeling them. If you're going with this lighter seafood, the peels always add extra color. They darken things, and they're fine in chicken stock. They're fine in beef stock. But if it's going for a seafood purpose, you always have to make sure you peel or de-peel, remove the peels, get rid of the peels.
Reggiano. These not only add a lot of flavor to the stock, but they're also delicious to nibble on at the end. I'm going to cover it with a bunch of water here. I'm going to let this come to a simmer. After about 45 minutes to an hour, I'll taste it, strain it, and then I'm going to get my risotto going.
I'm taking the broth that I rinsed the rice in, and now...
Yeah, so what she said about 45 minutes to an hour, that's kind of like the general rule of thumb you'll see in chef textbooks you get at culinary school. Vegetable, fish stocks, 45 minutes to an hour. Chicken stocks, 2 to 3 hours. Beef stocks, 5 to 8 hours. And that's really it. I mean, after that, so what'll happen is, again, you see like 24-hour stocks or 48-hour stocks. But what happens really is that the vegetables they start to go bitter. And what they start releasing just isn't that pleasant. What's a much better use, if you're going to put that kind of time into it, I like to do remis or remoyage. So after I do a beef stock, after 8 hours is up, I call it. I take out my bones. I put them off to the side. I strain my stock. I put it away. I put the bones back in the pot with fresh mirepoix, fresh aromatics, and then I do the process all over again for another 8 hours. And what you're going to get is called a secondary stock, and it's very weak compared to a regular stock, but way more flavorful than water. You freeze it, and then next time you make stock, instead of using water, you use your Remy. So you're fortifying that beef flavor. And that's a much better use of your time. We're only 5 minutes into this video. It's 17 minutes long. I know a good 8 minutes, so that's probably going to be the food scientist. We're probably halfway through the cooking right now, and we haven't seen the rice yet, the real risotto.
Now I'm just adding the shrimp shells and the corn cobs for a little more depth of flavor. I'm going to bring this up to a boil, and then I'll drop the heat down and simmer it for about 30 minutes.
Corn cobs, that's something I haven't seen in stock before. I know, like, for example, you take food theory classes. And this does translate very into the real world. Don't use certain vegetables in stocks because when they boil, they just taste like cabbage. Now, I've never tried corn cobs, so I don't know if they actually taste like cabbage or not. But
I'm just going to let the broth come up to a simmer because we'll use it little by little when making the risotto.
I have my stock here, and it's been infused with the corn and the shrimp shells. So I'm going to remove that. It has this really nice sweetness to it from the corn cobs, and you can taste the shrimpy flavor.
My stock's ready to go. Looks good. So I'm just gonna strain this through a fine mesh strainer. Push out any of the extra juices that might be in there. I'm gonna season my stock with salt. I want whatever I'm using to be well seasoned so that all of that flavor goes into the rice. Light and refreshing, delicious.
So now the fun part, to actually make the risotto. So first up, I'm actually gonna saute my shallots in butter and olive oil.
There's the great debate of, do you use butter, do you use olive oil? Why not use both?
I'm doing a mixture of butter and avocado oil. The butter is, it's butter, so it's delicious. The avocado oil will keep it from burning.
I have some shallots.
I use shallots.
If it was clarified butter, it would keep itself from burning. And if you want a quick tip on clarifying butter, just throw it in the microwave and then scoop off all the milk solids that come to the top.
That's because it's kind of a hybrid between garlic and onion, so you get the flavors of both in one.
Some finely diced fennel. I love the earthy licorice flavor of fennel. A little bit of salt. If you could smell what I smell right now, this is a chef's happy place. I'm not trying to brown the vegetables, I'm just trying to soften them and bring out their best flavors.
The most important thing about making a risotto is the rice. I feel like this is going to be controversial, but I'm going to be using bomba rice. Because this rice absorbs more water, it will keep my risotto from being too gummy and it'll still be kind of firm.
So I'm going to take a cup of arborio rice.
I am using Violone Nano rice. This is a medium grain rice, but it's still round and...
So almost everybody uses arboreal rice, and what you may not know is there are 3 different rices that are all considered correct for risotto. Arboreal being the most common one you're going to get at the grocery store. Now, I remember that there's 3 from school, which I went to 20 years ago. Off the top of my head, the other 2 they're using could be them. They are all like short grain rice. Those could be correct. I'd have to look it up in a textbook to see, because most grocery stores don't carry them. Most people don't use them. I think the bomba is correct for sure. The other one, I'm like 50-50 on. Also, some people will do barley risotto, which they'll just, they're heating up barley in the risotto method.
shape, and it's very forgiving.
All I want to do is toast it a little bit so that it brings out that nutty flavor of the arborio.
This is just readying the rice, basically. It's making it taste a little bit more like the grain itself, and it's going to stop it from breaking apart when I actually cook it.
It smells perfect right now. It's kind of nutty, and so that's how you know when it's ready.
A little white wine.
I feel like you can't really go wrong with wine and butter in general.
And I'm going to let that cook until the wine fully absorbs into the rice. It adds a nice flavor. It helps deglaze the pan, any bits from the bottom that are stuck.
I'm going to use bubbles because why not? I love bubbles. I love the flavor of cava, so that is what I'm going to use. In the end, you'll see why bubbles go with the particular topping that's going on to finish the dish. So cava is basically Spain's answer to Prosecco, champagne, but it's dry, it's bubbly, it's delicious.
I just got so excited about the wine, I forgot to put in my aromatics, so I'm gonna add in onions, garlic, shallots.
You can see that it's already bringing out some of the starches in my rice, which is great. That's exactly what I want.
Now that it's reduced by about half, I'm gonna add in my stock.
About a cup or so at a time.
If you do it all at once, it's not going to absorb nicely.
You want to continue to stir and let the rice absorb the stock.
And this is the risotto method. You toast the rice, you put in some dry white wine, and then the rice absorbs the wine, and as the pan gets dry, you add in stock. And then as the stock, a couple things will happen. Some of it's going to evaporate, you'll lose some of it to the air. Most of it is going to absorb into the rice. So instead of just putting it all in there and boiling it like you would boil pasta or white rice in a pot, the rice pulls it in gradually, and that's going to allow it for that. The rice is going to release its starch more evenly, which is going to give you that creaminess that you get in risotto.
As it needs to absorb the stock. And as you're stirring, you are releasing some of those starches, and that's what is going to give you that velvety saturation on the rice.
This dish is a labor of love, but I promise you it's worth it. That's why it costs a lot at the restaurants.
I am gonna try this no stir method just because I don't have a lot of time sometimes. So I'm gonna just add in most of my stock and just save about a cup of it and then let it do its thing. I'm gonna bring it up to a boil. I'm going to lower it down to a simmer and then I'm gonna cover it.
I have heard of the no stir method. I have not tried it. I would be curious to know the result.
You know, you could just tell that it's getting more like a porridge, if you will. It looks creamy, classic risotto consistency. It smells amazing, but we're almost there.
For me, the ideal texture of risotto, it has movement. When you stir it, and even when you plate it, like you should plate it and it still like oozes on the plate and then it comes to a stop. This is looking really good. It's super close. I'm gonna add one more ladle of stock here and give it a taste and see where I'm at. Around each individual kernel of rice, you can see that wave happening. If that doesn't make you happy, come on.
I'm gonna give a little check to see how it's going. Oh, it looks great. It smells so good. So I'm gonna give it a little stir and shake just to see where it's at. Yes, and it's perfect. It's not sticking to the bottom. It's like nice, all the rice is like kind of separated. It's good, it's good. It's almost there. But I'm gonna add in my tomatoes and corn now and just start cooking these down.
Final taste, but I think we're...
Now I'm even more confused though, because I thought those meats were going to be cooked in the risotto pans to give... I just don't know why they showed it so far at the beginning. Like, unless, like, if they did cook them that early, they're going to taste like shit. And, like, if they're cooking them on the side in separate pans, then why didn't they... It just doesn't make sense, the layout. The editor did a piss poor job, I think.
We're there. Perfect. And now for my secret ingredient, which is actually not so secret, but something that's totally optional, grated cheese.
Parmigiano Reggiano is the king of cheeses. I am sorry, but I'm from Wisconsin and Parm Reg is the way to go. This is gonna...
I like to use Havarti. There. I said it. Not a big fan of Parmigiano Reggiano. I don't get stuck up on my cheeses. I like Havarti. That's what I use. If you like cheddar, that's what you should use.
I'm gonna just finish off that creaminess of the risotto. And it's salty, it's umami.
Give it that nice creamy texture that we're looking for. I think that the rice is in a good place, so I'm gonna add in the rest of my stock. I'm gonna raise the heat up to high heat so that I can continue to let it cook down and reduce the amount of liquid, and we're almost done here. I'm gonna stir it just to make sure that nothing sticks and all the flavors are getting incorporated into the risotto. This no stir method is so quick and fast. My risotto is already there. It's like 10 minutes faster than I thought it was gonna be.
The rice is definitely cooked in al dente. The only way to know if risotto is done is taste it. Delicious.
My very last step is to add in the mushrooms and asparagus. I want these vegetables fully incorporated into the risotto. I love it when you get a bite and every bite of rice has some vegetables in it. God, this looks so good. God, I'm so excited. As you guys know, I like to eat, so I'm gonna put a lot of it on this plate. Come on, that looks like restaurant quality. You kidding me?
My risotto's about done, and you can see the rice is like nice and separated, but still kind of like creamy. It has such great color for the red and the yellow of the corn. Add a little butter for that je ne sais quoi that butter can only provide. Add a little pepper, which also just kind of adds a nice color to it too, just another little texture. I'm just piling on my risotto onto my plate. I'm gonna put the shrimp on.
Classically, you'd use white pepper, and so depending how this was edited and shot, if she made the shrimp first and then made the risotto, they're cold by now. That's all I can say about that.
Top. I'm gonna add a little bit of the basil to give it that nice color and also that freshness to it.
Our risotto is done, so I want to get it on the plate ASAP so that you can see that movement that I was talking about. It shouldn't just sit up like mashed potatoes. It should flow. If your risotto doesn't move, it means that you need a little bit more broth to it. And don't be afraid to add some more broth. This rice can take it. This is where we're gonna make it seductively sexy. So a little creme fraiche right in the middle. I didn't finish with butter, so the creme fraiche is acting as that extra creamy element, but you have acid too, which is beautiful in a dish like this, since it's so clean and fresh and delightful. Scallops go on.
Those are definitely cold. Like they're finished. If she's finishing the risotto now, she made those scallops first, and they're definitely cold. You should basically finish your risotto, put a lid on it, move it to the side. It's fine. It's not gonna be hurt for sitting for 2 minutes while you sear some scallops.
I'm doing bubbles and caviar because why not? Osetra caviar is clean, fresh. It has a nice little pop to it, and it tastes like the sea, honestly. All right, I'm gonna do a little...
Yeah, no, that's very decadent. Let's see what she garnishes with before I say anything else.
Little bit of chive right in the middle here on the creme fraiche. Fennel frond on top of each scallop. Oh, mama. And then, secret weapon, a little bit of fennel pollen. Fennel pollen is actually the pollen of the fennel. And it also adds just this kind of elegance to the dish.
This is
So leaving her risotto that white, though, with the white scallops. I know they have the brown sear on the tops, but as soon as you cut into them, they're white. I don't know. I think it's a lot of negative use of the color palette. I'd like to see a little more color in it, but everything, like if I were eating it with my eyes closed, I'm pretty sure it would be the best tasting out of them all.
is my risotto.
And this
Okay, his looks really good too. I enjoyed it. I feel like it goes pro 1-2 because I just didn't like how she used the no stir method. She didn't really make risotto. She used rice and she just boiled it basically, like she did like rice.
this is my risotto.
This is my risotto.
This looks so good. It smells amazing. And I'm really hungry, so let's dig in.
All right, so there you had the 3 level 1, level 2, and level 3 make their versions of risotto. I'm glad that Lish didn't go crazy over the top and do something stupid. She did something that actually if you gave it to me, I'd be like, yeah, this looks like a nice risotto dish. John's looks like something most of us make at home. And Danny's, I don't know, like just the no stir method. All of a sudden, like, is it really risotto then? Or is it just more like pasta style rice? I don't know. I mean, it's not really risotto then. I mean, it's still good. Don't get me wrong, it's probably still very good. It's just not risotto. You know, it's like somebody gives you a flatbread and calls it a pizza. It's not a pizza. Just because it's bread with topping on it doesn't make it pizza. And, you know, just because you use a short grain rice doesn't make it risotto. Anyways, those were my thoughts on these 3 meals. If you like this channel, well, you know what to do. Hit that subscribe, hit that bell icon,